If you want to make 100K next year, visualizing it isn't going to do anything. Visualizing yourself having 100K, what else can you do? Rather than visualizing 100K, visualize how I would be on a daily basis. And am I going to be a high performer? Am I going to get up? Am I going to work on myself? Am I going to educate myself, read books, put myself in the same people? That version of me, okay, she's creating something. Am I going to have a business? Well, most likely if I'm going to earn 100K. All right, as a business person, what am I going to be doing on a daily basis that's going to allow me to be that kind of person? The joy of playing tennis left when I ran the tennis company. But as soon as I stopped running the tennis company, I loved the joy of tennis. And even though it was like the typical follow what you're passionate about, follow what you're good at, it gets to a point where you're like, oh, I'm trying to run a business, I have all this responsibility. You can actually lose some of that joy. So when someone says, follow your passion, I don't necessarily think it's the right advice.
On today's episode, an entrepreneur, international speaker and presenter, and the finalist of the Apprentice Show, Sabrina Stocker. Sabrina, thank you so much for joining me today.
Oh, thank you for having me.
So for a little more context for our audience, our guest today, Sabrina, is a tennis player who transformed into a dynamic entrepreneur, international speaker and presenter. Starting her entrepreneurial journey at the young age of 14, she was the youngest finalist on the Apprentice Show of her year. Sabrina successfully grew her tennis business to a six-figure venture by the age of 22. Very impressive. And during the lockdown, from her sofa, she launched a software company rapidly gaining 350,000 subscribers in 6 weeks. Through savvy media use, now she guides brands to fame and profitability within 90 days. A full-time travelpreneur, Sabrina is able to run her business from anywhere in the world. Thank you, Sabrina, for joining. And I guess I would like to talk about entrepreneurship and the bravery that you had in pursuing these different ventures at a very, very young age. So when it comes to me understanding the world and working with clients as a mindset coach, I've really come to realize that mindset is the cornerstone of happiness, the cornerstone of every success, and the cornerstone of a rich and fulfilled life. So my question to you is, how would you describe your mindset?
Great question. Thank you for the intro. For me, I've listened to Tony Robbins and Brendon Burchard since I was 14 years old, just to get good grades, not thinking I was learning about mindset and productivity. And I've always grown up as a tennis player, and that's completely, you're in control of everything. So whatever happens to me when I step out on the tennis court, it's me as a player and what skills and confidence I can bring to the court, but also no matter who my opponent or the weather or the surface, I have to continuously adapt. So it's that constant change of, I think, being a tennis player, but also having such big inspirational names, listening to those, digesting those from such a young age.
It's interesting because how did you think that Tony Robbins and Brendon Burchard would help you with the studies? It's not an obvious one.
No, I was on YouTube in my bed, 14-year-old girl listening to these 40, 50-year-old men. And I'm like, okay, I want to be able to see my friends and go to dance and play tennis and play the violin. But my mom's Indian, so I have to get good grades. So I was like, okay, the word here is productivity.
Yeah.
And I just learned how to be really, really productive and intensely studied it. And no, I didn't really have any role models apart from Hermione Granger growing up.
Of course.
And I just wanted to be ahead. And they were the only people that I could really resonate with and hear their words and think, this actually makes sense. Let me take it on board.
I love that. So can you share some of the most impactful for you, I guess, productivity hacks that you learned?
Probably a lot of the time when we're trying to learn something, so when you're studying or when you have a business to run, you put in that first. And then you neglect your social life, you neglect your sports life. So I started doing it the other way around. I thought, what are my non-negotiables that I don't want to miss that creates happiness and fulfillment, which is seeing my friends and doing my sports and going to the gym. And then everything works around that rather than working around your work. And that way you're never feeling like you're missing out because you have it in your diary. So when the time comes to actually study or to work or to run a business, then you don't feel like you're missing out and have that guilt feeling as well.
Absolutely. I love that you said that. You have to build in your non-negotiables in your diary if you want to have a full life, definitely, because otherwise things just take over. And when you get really focused and really entrenched in something and really passionate about it too, then you just get lost. So unless you plan for time with family, plan for gym, and make it a non-negotiable, it's not going to happen. Very, very true. So what would you say are prerequisites for someone to be a successful entrepreneur, seeing that you've started several ventures and done really well?
I think one big one is having confidence in yourself, because no one's going to say, okay, it's your time to get up in the morning. No one's going to say you have this particular deadline. When you grow up out of having so-called authority figures, it's all about you. So if you don't have that internal drive, if you're not open to learning, to listening, to creating, then no one cares about you. And when you think no one cares about you, you're the only person who's going to go out and get it and go create that drive, then it's all about you. And then when you start creating your own reality, you can put yourself out there and you can say, okay, this is what I want to achieve. This is how I'm going to do it. Because your friends and your family, they want you to be happy, but how you get there, they don't really care that much. You're the person who cares the most. And then they'll encourage you and they'll hopefully support you to get to your own dream. But you've got to create the dream.
So very interesting. So you grew up in a household that was relatively strict, or they had their own idea what you should be doing, or not really?
Massively mixed household. My mum was a teacher, my dad was a teacher. So there was the strict side of things of like, okay, you need to get to that next level. But my dad was also very pushy in terms of go do whatever you enjoy, which was a really loving and great trait to have. My nan was a public speaker. So I had okay, if I get good grades, then I can do everything that I enjoy. So the motivation was to do everything I can enjoy, providing I got the good grades, which in hindsight, I don't know if that's the best way to bring me up.
Why not?
Because
it worked out well.
It worked out well. Well, I think it's good having a mix. But if it wasn't for the way that I was brought up, I wouldn't have that determination and that resilience and that work ethic. And then I can have the fun after.
Okay. Tell me about your first venture when you were 14.
So
how did you stumble into that?
I was running this young enterprise event at school, and there were a team of 14 of us, and we got the chance to start our own business. So we created this Sweet Memories product where we put the sweets into the jar and we sold them, and we ended up selling them at shopping centers and like really big places.
Really?
And the person who won the Apprentice the year before me had the same idea as what I was doing at 14. So maybe I was a few years ahead.
Okay.
And it was really fun actually, because it allowed me to think, I don't need to listen to my teachers. The person running it, my business studies teacher, was just, I don't know why she was the mentor, why she was a teacher. And it started questioning, well, if they're not happy and if they haven't got a positive attitude, then why am I looking up to my teachers as role models?
Fair. And what happened afterwards? So you had the success with this venture that you started. So what happened next? What was the evolution?
So when I was 15, I started working and I was running this tennis tournament. I made my boss £8,000 within 5 days. I got paid £150.
So were you a tennis instructor?
I was running a tennis event, like a tennis tournament. I was coaching on the side, but mainly the tennis tournament, and getting paid so little for all the hard work. I thought, okay, I'm going to learn how to do this myself. And within 3 years, I became fully qualified. And that's the drive that started my tennis company, because I knew that there was a market. I knew my energetic, bubbly self would be different to the slightly older referees running the events. And that's how I started off the tennis company.
Very interesting. Would you say that you've always loved what you were doing in terms of your businesses?
Interestingly, yes. And I'd say that because the joy of playing tennis left when I ran the tennis company. But as soon as I stopped running the tennis company, I loved the joy of tennis. And even though it was like the typical follow what you're passionate about, follow what you're good at, it gets to a point where you're like, oh, I'm trying to run a business, I have all this responsibility. You can actually lose some of that joy. So when someone says, follow your passion, I don't necessarily think it's the right advice. I did well. I created 6 figures a year. And for me at that age, I was super happy. I was on top of the world. But had I have started a different business in a different market, maybe I would have achieved more than that.
Hi everyone! Today's episode is sponsored by Momo Kombucha, my favorite non-alcoholic drink, together with water. I've now been drinking Momo Kombucha for around 6 months, and I really love their product because they're healthy, they're delicious, they keep coming out with these new flavors and limited editions. Watermelon that I tried recently that I was obsessed with. So if you want to try Momo Kombucha and you haven't yet, feel free to use the discount code ISTHISIT15 to get a 15% discount off your first order.
So I guess, How was it feeling, first of all, when you were 22 and you had a 6-figure business?
I guess it felt a bit surreal because I was thinking I have like as much disposable income as I want, which I thought was a lot of money back then, which is still a lot of money. But I was like always wanting more. Okay, 6 figures actually isn't so much money. How do I make 7? How do I continue from that?
So it's making more for making more sake, not necessarily that you were spending it all.
I was spending quite a
You
lot.
were spending it all. What were you spending it on?
There was one day that I was just sat in my bedroom and I was just like counting cash. And my dad walked in.
The meme. Somebody insert a meme here.
And I was just like counting cash and my dad walks in. He's like, what is all this? What is all
Are
this
you
cash?
doing drugs?
And I was like, oh, it's from like the tennis company. Don't worry, I've told my accountant about it. But he was like, are you going to put it away? I was like, this is like my spending money.
Which was how much?
Well, I think at that time I was like 7K that I made. That was just sat there, which was great. Yeah. I mean, he's a teacher, right? Yeah. So he has an okay salary, but he wasn't expecting to see his 21-year-old just with all this. It was great.
What were you spending it on? Tell me.
Honestly, I was going out, I was doing everything that, looking back, I shouldn't have done.
Why not? Like, you should have fun.
Well, I mean, I should have put some money aside. Now understanding the finances, but I was going out, seeing friends, paying for dinners, getting nice clothes, going on holidays. I had a great time. It was lovely. Maybe looking back, I would have put a little bit of that money aside to teach me more about money. But it just came so easily. Yeah. So I just kept spending it.
And that's the thing. When you're young and you don't have too much life experience, you think whatever's happening is going to keep happening. Always. And I think even we were talking about the stock market before we started. Stock market is run on biases, human biases. So I want to know how your perception of the future was shaped by you earning so much money at the time when you were so young. What did you think the future was going to be like?
Worst case scenario, if I put everything into everything, I have an MBA, I'm a great tennis coach, I could go back to earning £60 an hour. So if everything failed, I've always got that, which would be my minimum. So if that's my minimum, what could be my maximum? And I always thought, if I want to earn more than X amount per hour, I have to start a business and I have to start a scalable one. So now looking forward, I'm thinking, okay, I can take more risks. I don't have too much to lose because I have that backbone. And that just allowed me to say, how can I help people? How can I help people at a bigger scale? And then actually the businesses come from that.
I love that. And it's very, very interesting for me to hear that this is probably the key behind that confidence and behind those risks that you were easily taking and that bravery that you had in pursuing various things throughout your life. And for somebody that has met you even once, they know that you're a very, very energetic, very positive, happy person, at least from the outlookers. I don't know. But yeah, I just always wonder the difference between people that, see the negative side and they're very doubtful and they're fearful about starting a new thing. And their focus is always on the things that could go wrong. But for you, if you have that confidence and security that, okay, well, I'm going to be okay either way, like life is going to be pretty good regardless. And it can only go up if I try, if I take this risk, if I start a business. That's a very powerful place to be. And it's basically like having, wings to try and go into this endeavor.
And it of course is harder if you have kids or if you have, certain responsibilities. But if you, at that age, I didn't have anything. I was staying at home. If I wanted to move out, the rent wasn't so much back then. I was still studying. I had the opportunity to put yourself out there. For someone who's scared to take risk, if you can cover the basics, cover your basic expenses, all of that is risk money. And if you're not happy being at the place that you are, then that's the biggest risk, living life being unhappy.
Amen. Tell me a little bit more about your experience in Apprentice. How did you, first of all, enrolled and how was it there?
I was such a big Apprentice fan. I'd watched it since the age of 9. I'd always said to my mum, I manifested getting on The Apprentice.
Really?
I always said to my mum, I'm going to be on that show. I told my dad, I'm going to be on that show every single year watching it. And even when I applied, I knew that I was on that show that year. I created calendar dates and I took out all the tennis tournaments during those dates because I knew I'd be on the show for both the different auditions. I took out those X amount of weeks that it took for the filming. So I pre-planned it so that I could actually do it. And going into the actual auditions, I thought, okay, if this question comes to me, this is how I'm going to answer it. So I was so precisely planned in everything from the way that I articulated myself to knowing that I was going to be the only under 30 female in London and having to be that under 30 figure to how I was going to answer the questions. So going through it was like incredible and surreal, and then getting on with it was so much fun.
Incredible. So you imagined it, you visualized it, you practiced for it way before it happened, but you did it all as if you knew that that was going to happen.
I had full certainty I was going to be on the show. Genuine full certainty. I just felt like I'd been so prepared and I'd visualized myself so much being in the boardroom going in that the way I carried myself reflected that.
Another proof how important and impactful the simple practice of visualization is. You're literally projecting. What people don't realize, and I think about this very often, is all of us project things all the time. We all visualize all the time. It's just most of the time it's negative. It's like, oh, what if this goes wrong? Oh, what if I don't get paid? What if this business fails? What if that person cheats on me? What if? And I think when you realize this, then you take back that power and that control, and you become aware of what you're thinking about. And when you become aware of it, then you can make a decision and choose proactively to replace that with a positive projection, a positive visualization. Very powerful. Thank you for sharing that.
The Apprentice is one thing I've manifested. I've manifested winning, like having my first car paid for. I've manifested winning 3 months traveling around the world, completely paid for. Like there's so many different things that have come about from having that complete certainty, which I would have never believed have I actually have experienced it myself.
I mean, okay, so in that case, for everyone listening, what is your step-by-step guide to this visualization / manifestation?
The first I'd say is actually getting rid of those limiting beliefs, being aware of those limiting beliefs. Once you're aware of them, then you can minimize them or get rid of them. Then you can replace them with something. So there's actually a bit of groundwork to do before you can start visualizing. Otherwise, you've still got a broken foundation.
Yeah.
So when you can get past that broken foundation, then you don't just visualize it. You act and you be and you behave in that certain manner, which will open up those doors. Then the opportunity comes and you're aware of them. Whereas if you haven't worked on those initial foundations, you've already closed the doors or you don't want to see them.
Absolutely. And this is something that we're going to do tonight. We're doing this intention setting workshop for the next year, 2024. And when thinking about exactly as you just said, thinking about making sure that you're able to manifest the future that you want, you need to make sure that there are no internal powerful conflicts that you're dealing with. Because, and this is where every person that's a skeptic of anything that is called manifestation visualization, even though, I mean, every athlete does visualization on daily, but okay. They're always like, yeah, well, I want this and it hasn't happened. Like I want $1 million and I don't have them. I still haven't got them in like my 30 years or 20 years, whatever it is, 40 years. But actually it would be enough to just sit down with this person for 1 hour, for even half an hour, and have a conversation to very quickly realize that actually they have very powerful limiting beliefs that say that, oh, if I get the money, maybe people around me are going to use me. Maybe I can't trust people around me anymore. Maybe I will owe money to taxes. Maybe what if happens if I lose all of this money, I'm going to be worse off than before, etc., etc., etc. And there could be so many other things that are hidden somewhere within that the person is not aware of and they're not thinking about, and all they see is the surface, like the tip of the iceberg, and they're like, well, I don't have the money. This doesn't work. But do you have the awareness of the full iceberg underwater, which are all those limiting beliefs, which are views of life, which are beliefs about yourself and other people? And once a person is able to have like this full vision, then you can manifest as you did.
100%. And building on what you said, you're completely right. There is an iceberg, but we're not aware of it because otherwise there wouldn't be an iceberg. So it's thinking about how you were growing up and what your teachers and what your parents and what your friends, how did they behave? Because you just naturally pick all of this up. And if you wanted to make $1 million next year, right? If you're a startup company, let's maybe go for 100K. If you want to make 100K next year, visualizing it isn't going to do anything. Visualizing yourself having 100K, what else can you do? Okay, if I was visualizing myself, rather than visualizing 100K, visualize how I would be on a daily basis. And am I going to be a high performer? Am I going to get up? Am I going to work on myself? Am I going to educate myself, read books, put myself in the same people? That version of me, okay, she's creating something. Am I going to have a business? Well, most likely if I'm going to earn 100K. All right, as a business person, what am I going to be doing on a daily basis that's going to allow me to be that kind of person? So it's visualizing yourself and then thinking, well, that version of me is possible. So can that version of me be present rather than in the future?
Absolutely. And how would you behave as that person that has achieved that, whatever you want? Asking yourself this, thinking about how it is, seeing it finally, and then feeling it. And then once you feel it, then that's the first spark that lights the fire of you then doing and behaving as that person. Absolutely. So I imagine doing the show gave you tremendous visibility. How did that change your life?
Kind of crazily. The Apprentice was crazy. Positively, with The Apprentice, it can make or break you. And it really built my personal brand in a personal way, in a positive way. I was used to being kind of the highlight when I was walking through the tennis club and everyone knew who I was and the coach was used to having those normal conversations. I was not used to getting on the train and people asking for selfies and for photos. Wow. I got asked for like 40, 50 photos a day. It was insane. And anywhere I went, I would be recognized, I'd be stared at, I would be approached. There was a really nice side of that, but it was also very, very intense. My Uber bill just went crazy. I stopped taking any transport. Wow. And I realized with all of this, it's not such a negative thing. It's everyone here is supporting me. They don't know much about me, but they know what they've seen about me. And to have that support gave me an even more confidence boost of I'm on the right path and I'm going to embrace this and I'm going to be kind and grateful for everyone who comes my way rather than pushing it away. And because I saw it from that point of view, I really enjoyed being actually able to inspire and help people.
So more about the experience at The Apprentice. What would you say you learned, or what were the most impactful lessons rather that you took away from that experience?
I definitely don't believe reality TV.
Oh, tell me more.
Well, you see TV and you see the media as this shiny box of like, oh, you can look up to someone, or you look up to celebrities, you look up to role models. Everyone else is on their single journey. So if you're already there, I guess you kind of just start questioning everything. And that's definitely when I started questioning everything, was coming off the show. In terms of, which we'll deep dive into, I see the questions. In terms of the entrepreneurship, it was you can make money out of everything. You can make money out of anything. Every single task is a way to make money, whether it's making donuts or whether it's doing gardening or whether it's creating stands or selling products. If you actually just use the very, very simple concept of I'm going to create something and go out there, every single time we made money. So no matter what happened tomorrow, if all my businesses closed, I'd go out and make money and it would not be an issue.
To have that confidence, wow, amazing. Okay, so tell me more about the reality TV. What have you learned?
Reality is your perception of what's happening. So no matter what happens, it's the way that the editors change the perception of the film or of the series, or they cut and start. So when you look into the media, and maybe we'll go down this rabbit hole, you need to start questioning everything. Okay, does it agree or does it disagree? If it disagrees, why does it disagree with my thought pattern? Where did I get that actual thought from? And looking, I guess, from a media and PR perspective, when you start questioning everything, you actually become a lot more logical thinking and more critical thinking. So you can start making your own decisions.
Okay. There's a lot of tasks that people will need to do after this. Visualize, question everything, a lot of confidence building. It's a very nice takeaway that you literally can make money from anything, doing anything. But Okay, so I want to ask you about your workflow. So I know you've been working remotely for quite a bit. How long have you worked remotely from anywhere?
3.5 years.
3.5 years. Okay, so what are the pros and cons, you'd say, from doing that, from working remotely?
Not too many cons.
I expected that. I expected that answer.
Working remotely, for me, it means you have location freedom. So you have time, financial, and location freedom. Fortunately, now I have all three. But at that point, I was working from a coffee shop in my local area, and I thought if I can work from here, I can work from anywhere. And it's generally with laptop-based businesses. Even if you're employed, you can work from anywhere in the world. I didn't have much money when I first started my company. I lost everything when COVID happened. I went to Egypt. It's not too expensive to live in Egypt, but I was working from a beach and I get to go snorkeling every day.
How do you focus? When you're surrounded by sun and beautiful things and activities to do and new people that you meet, how do you actually get work done, basically?
If you have to sustain yourself, you get it done. There's no choice. Like, I could go back home or I could make sure that I keep up the work ethic and be in a nicer location. And when you're being able to work from anywhere, you learn so much more. You become sharper at everything. You can fall into the trap of, oh, I'm here to explore and I'm not going to have to work today because I want to go do this. And it's about having that discipline and mentality that I'm building a business, I'm building an empire. I have to stay focused and having that self-discipline to do so.
Yeah, I suppose the keys where you said that if you have to do it, you're going to do it. Like you're going to figure it out for sure. So what sort of costs are people looking at if they want to go full-time nomadic entrepreneur?
No costs. I started this with no money at all. None.
What is that 3-month free traveling trip that you told us about?
This was when I was 21 years old and I got paid to be a content creator for 3 months.
By who?
STA Travel, but unfortunately they went bankrupt.
Oh.
That was amazing.
Maybe it was all those influencers they were paying to travel for free.
There we go. It was all my fault. But yeah, like anyone can start a business. And the way you do it is by bringing cash in first before you have any expenditure. That expenditure could be your time, and that's a really good place to start because it's just you. Or it could be outsourcing to another agency. But for me, it was my time. So how can I bring in the income and show that there's demand, and then I can play with the income that I have before I have any expenses going out?
Yeah, I think that's a very, very good way to start because a lot of people, again, the naysayers and the fearful ones, they're going to say, well, I don't have money, but you have to have something. You either have money, maybe you have time, maybe you have a specific skill, but you definitely have something. So use that. And then how do you test quickly that the market or the product, your idea has demand?
Has someone paid me? And how quickly has someone paid me? If I could say to someone, I will generate them 5 leads off LinkedIn, and knowing that they have a price of, let's say, 2,500, I'm going to generate them 12,500. I could say I'm going to charge 2,500 for my service. I've made a 10,000 profit. If I can't do it, then I'll refund them. But if I have 2,500, that's basically your first paycheck. And you have 1 client. So to replace that, I just work and make sure that I've met it and exceeded it. And then when I've exceeded it, they're most likely to recommend me to somebody else.
So I guess this is where we get into your current business. And it's all about branding and PR and getting people results. So how would you describe what you currently do?
If someone was looking to generate more profit, to get more awareness, to get more credibility, to get more authority, we'll place them in different publications, in TV, so that they have that association with the big names. And providing that they have a good service or good product, that will massively amplify their authority in the marketplace.
So is that a typical PR company?
PR has lots of soft different facets.
No, because I for anyone that has no idea what a PR company is, like what are the services that they offer? What can they do for their clients and how do they do it?
It's a very gray area, and I say that because PR companies are a little bit of everything. To keep it simple, if you want authority in your field, you'd work with a PR agent to get you seen and get you heard and get you known within your marketplace.
And what would you say makes your business different?
I was so frustrated at working with PR agents because I would spend £2,000-3,000 a month and not get any results. Maybe one month I would get a speaking gig, and then I'd get a blog, and then I'd get an article. And from my mindset, so I studied economics, I'm thinking, well, why can't I just guarantee where I'm going to go? I'll pay you X amount. You can guarantee you're going to get me a result, whether that's this, this, or this, but I know what I'm getting. And if you can't do it, then I won't pay you. And if you can, I will.
Makes sense.
It makes so much sense.
Absolutely.
And that's what we started doing. And because we can guarantee we'll get X amount of results in X amount of days, and this is how much we'll quote you for it. If we don't get it, we'll refund them. But if we get it, you're happy and the client's happy.
So why do you think no one was doing that?
It didn't make sense. I haven't come from a PR background. I came from a fun tennis coaching background. So I like to keep things really simple. And paying for someone and you don't know what the result is just didn't make sense.
So if somebody is looking to engage a PR company or PR services, first of all, when should you look to do that? Like what is the level that you need to grow to for it to be relevant to you?
Ideally, when you're looking to launch something, so maybe you're launching a podcast or releasing a book, a new product offering, a new service to get you that initial buzz. So launches are a really great place to start. And sometimes someone has it on their vision board. So they go, this year I'm going to be a TEDx speaker, I'm going to be in Forbes, or I'm going to put myself out there. So a lot of the time it's the vision sense. Sometimes it's
people come to you with that. They're like, I have this, I want to be on TED's stage because I envisioned it.
Exactly.
And you make it happen? Mic drop. Okay.
But, sometimes it's a confidence thing. I want to show that I am genuinely good at what I do, and I want to show that with the world, and it gives them more confidence because then they could say they're on the bigger spectre. Sometimes guys do it for dating.
What?
Do you know if you put like a Forbes article on your Hinge or your Raya profile, you'll get more swipes and more messages?
I can imagine, to be honest. What? People genuinely, guys come to you and they're like, they actually say this?
I'm not mentioning any names.
Wow.
But I have had clients say that they want to use it because they'll get more DMs. Necessarily I haven't taken them on for that reason.
The lengths you go to get laid. Pardon my language. Wow. Okay. So how does one tell a good PR company from a bad one?
I always say guarantees. So can that PR company guarantee you something or they can't? That's a big one. Proof. So I had my own company. I scaled it through PR. We had 350,000 visitors just because of PR. So have they done it themselves? And I think you gauge them, right? Your gut says, is this person just giving me a load of waffle, or do they actually know if they can help me or not?
Tell me more about the launch of it. So it was you and a co-founder, somebody else that you launched this company with. And how did you get those 350 visits in 6 weeks?
So there was, in lockdown when no one could get food, someone created this website, the co-founder, on putting your postcode in and finding all the delivery slots in your area. So rather than continuously refreshing all the different tabs, you had this one website. At the same time, no one could get food, and it was all over the papers about this massive lack of food delivery.
I remember the grand frenzy of
Exactly.
2020. Yeah.
So he approached me, said, can you help me scale this? At first I turned him away. I was like, this is a rubbish idea. Then I was like, I need this. So I called him back.
Because you're like, I can't get food.
I couldn't get food.
Yeah.
My nan couldn't get food. So I called him back. I was like, okay, I'm in. We were getting 200, 300 visitors on the site. We did the entire experience, created the funnel, and I contacted about 300 journalists. Using all my apprentice contact, my PR agent, my mentor at that time was Boris Johnson's PR person. So I had all this really good information from the inside. And we had 100,000 people on our website overnight. Website crashed, which was crazy. And 6 weeks later, we had 350,000 users, all from using PR. And off the back of that, everyone said, that's pretty cool. Can you help me with my PR? And that's how the PR agency also founded.
Okay, so how quickly did you develop your, business strategy and launch this now PR company?
The PR company, I guess I kind of improvised. I was figuring out what would someone want to buy from PR. And I thought, okay, what would I want to be? Where would I want to be in it? And I just took that simple approach. I started messaging people on Instagram. I started posting about it. And then it was like referral. So it grew very, very quickly. We made 5K the first month, 10K the second month, 40K the third month. And I was like, okay, I'm onto something. Fortunately, I had like a couple of staff members from the tennis company. I brought them in, so I had a bit of a team. And then we continued to scale up the team.
Fascinating. So I guess the question that I have at the top of my head is, how do you actually get people featured? How do you get them on those TED stages, on those Forbes articles? Is it a matter, say I was your client, do I need to pay those companies? Or I don't know, do you pay TED? Do you pay Forbes? I know you kind of pay, I've heard that much. How does it work?
Generally, first the person has to be credible because otherwise it doesn't look so good. So let's say you wanted to get something about the podcast. We would say, what are the stats around the podcasts? How do we want to approach it in the press? How do we make it clickable? What's your credibility? So we vet the person first. Then we've gone to over 100 publications. We've got the criteria of what they look for. They want to look for someone who has a following, has a legitimate business, has an incredible story, has a different angle, because they care about clicks and they care about views. So then we're able to coordinate it and we take a fee for our time.
I see. And then there's an extra fee for whoever is at the...
Sometimes. So that more goes into the advertisement space, but you can definitely fast track your way.
Okay. So what are some of the classic mistakes you see people make when they're trying to create a brand for themselves and market themselves?
I'd say running before you can walk. If you haven't got a good idea, if you haven't got any existing funnels, then imagine you get 100,000. If you've got 100 people and no one wants your product, then if you put it to 100,000, still nobody may want your product. So you really need to make sure you have a strong funnel, a strong CTA, a strong offer, and then you go to press. Without a strong offer, everyone could see you and they could turn their head. With a strong offer, that's where the magic comes in.
So what does one need to think about when creating a very strong offer?
I know you have it on your bookshelf.
I know. Exactly. I have the other one.
You have the other one?
Yeah.
Two really good books, How to Create Irresistible Offers. I think it's by Dale Carnegie, but I could have that wrong. And also How to Create $100 Million Offers by Alex Hormozi. They go through it really, really well. But the key offer is, one, your grandma can understand it, so she can understand exactly what you do. Has guarantee, it has scarcity, and it makes sense. So for example, a good offer from us would be, we can guarantee you to be on TV, so that's the end goal, within 90 days time frame, or we'll give you your money back. Could be the kind of security aspect. The urgency is that a lot of people, when they want to do a launch, there's certain dates that they have to click, so it's a company urgency. The scarcity is we can only take on a few clients a month because it's very high profile clients.
Wow, there's a lot of tips for people to think about. I've seen that you help a lot of coaches, speakers. So what would you say are the main advice that you would give this type of solopreneur in order to stand out from the crowd?
There's so many coaches. There are so many consultants. And when they jump on a call, they all tell me the exact thing, that they really care about their clients, that they really support their clients, that they've had amazing results. So that's the minimum. You need to create more than that. So what's going to differentiate you? Your hair. Your hair is very stand out and it differentiates you. Some differentiates by glasses, by the color clothes. So the visual appeal. How do you visually appeal different to everybody? Making sure that you have a really good offer. So if you could work with someone, what would that guaranteed end result be, and the testimonials? And why should someone actually care about you? Sometimes it could be your story. Sometimes it could be your results. How exactly you're doing the process, what the process is. So really thinking about why you are different compared to someone else, more than the basics. And it's not easy, but that's what's going to make you stand out compared to everyone else.
It's so fascinating to think about the fact that visuals, something like having specific hair or standout glasses, is enough to actually set you aside and make a difference between 0 leads and 100 leads or more. It's crazy. It's crazy to think about that. And does it have to be just that you stand out, or do you need to even think about how is that linked to your specific target audience and whether they would like that or they would, respond to that.
I think having clarity in who you're speaking to is really big, because that changes your copywriting and the way that you present yourself. But if you imagine it's my triangle. Okay, it's my triangle. They're going to think I'm Illuminati now.
Yeah, that's it. Headlines. Sabrina is in Illuminati.
Okay.
If you imagine a triangle at the bottom of your head, it's so funny. If you imagine a triangle.
This is going to be the thumbnail. This is going to be the thumbnail now.
You've got your authority, like you've got your awareness. So can someone see you? And then do they like you? So that's what you're speaking to the right audience. Is your copy right? Is the way you're presenting yourself right? The way that you speak, does that dilate with them? The speed of what you're speaking, your tonality. This is the awareness stage. Then moving them into the next stage is your conversion stage. What's going to get them to go from here, liking your post, seeing your post, to actually messaging you or interacting with you or engaging with you, which is where you've got the CTA or you've got an offer. Then it's about how do you bring it off the social media platform? Have you got a mailing list? You could have, for example, your top 10 books for 2024 to read. What's your email address? I'll send you the PDF. You can have that as how you get them off the social media platform, so you know they're really strong. And then in the newsletters after that, it's about how do you keep them engaged, give them a lot of value. But throughout the whole process, they know that there is an end result. And the end result is potentially they can work with you as a client. But it's their own decision to work with you. You're not trying to push it on them.
Yeah. So there's a lot of steps that one needs to think about. It's not just, cold reach out to somebody, because it's not very effective. You just do a cold reach out and the person hasn't, found out about you. You haven't been targeting them specifically, so they can't relate to you. That makes a lot of sense. I would like to ask you something that I ask everybody, and I'm very curious about personally, which is the purpose. So do you know what your purpose is in life?
Interestingly, my purpose got lost and then I found it again. When I was going back to the 14-year-old myself sitting in a bed, trying to learn and get good grades, I was listening to 40-year-old men. I think they were 40. And I was thinking, why are there no females that I can relate to? Now there are a few, but back then there weren't any. So I thought, how do I become that person who I wish my 14-year-old self had? And a lot of that for me was very purpose-driven of how can I be my best self? How can I keep building? Then it got to my mid-20s and I was like, okay, maybe I just want to keep things small. My business is doing well. I'm very happy. I have a great group of friends around me. And then I got to that stage where I'm traveling in the most incredible places and staying at the most beautiful hotels in the world. And I'm just not happy. And I'm thinking, I'm missing something here. I've reached my financial goals. I'm still missing something. What am I missing? And it's my purpose. And it's driven me back to that 14-year-old self is who do I wish that I had? And having the PR agency, I can accelerate so many other beautiful, inspiring other entrepreneurs that I'm not just building my brand, but I'm building all of theirs. And that's going to create the ripple effect.
Beautiful, beautiful. So it is, in fact, connecting with and helping, facilitating other people realize their dreams in a way.
How can I amplify the dreams of the dreamers?
Yeah, beautiful, beautiful. I love that. And it's very interesting for me to always hear about people's journey with their own purpose. Sometimes people have no idea. Sometimes it's something that they've known since day one. Sometimes it's they lost it, they knew it, they lost it, they found it. And for some people, it's something that's set in stone, that's always been the same and it has stayed the same. For some people, it changes all the time. So in this journey of finding out what it is for different people, I think it validates, whoever's listening and their own relationship with their purpose. And maybe they've never even thought about it. And so my desire and my intention with this podcast is to very much spark that curiosity and that internal dialogue around this topic, because correct me if I'm wrong, but life just feels very, very different when you move with purpose.
You could have everything, but if you haven't got a purpose, there's no drive. It's the rawness of it. I didn't understand that until I didn't have it.
I feel that you could also liken it to having everything that you could want but because you haven't even written down or thought about that these are the things that you want, you have them and you're not grateful. You're not appreciating them because you didn't want them in the first place, right? Had you just thought about things and you're like, well, actually, I want this, 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 and that. And then they manifest, you earn them, you work for them, and you get them. Wow, what a difference, right? But when you just stumble into things that are not in alignment with your desires or your values, then you just don't appreciate them. So I feel like when you're moving without purpose, it's just you're going through life, but there's not that compass.
When things get hard, if there's nothing bigger, then you want to walk away. But if there's something bigger you're working towards, you'll always go forwards.
Absolutely. I want to ask you a little bit of a bonus question, I guess. Something that I'm curious about. So I really love your energy and I love what you're doing and I love your intention, your purpose, and how you are with people. So it's very inspiring to me. But I feel like you could also be classified as this, strong boss lady, independent, and you're traveling and you're earning your own money. So I'm curious, how has that impacted your personal relationships with men? How have you seen how?
I used to be, I'm a lot more feminine now than I ever have been. When I was a tennis coach, I was like, go, 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 tennis player. It's very masculine energy. And I was completely always surrounded by men in my industry. And I had to have a really masculine, I don't know if I had to have it, but I did have a really masculine. Since I've allowed myself to be more feminine, my spirituality's grown. Since I've brought these in to actually be essence, that's been my biggest acceleration. So when I look back at myself, I think, wow, I was such a different person. The way that I am here is a little bit more bigger and bolder, but I've also got that quiet, gentle, reading, cooking side of me. And being able to accept that and think, okay, there can be different, multiple assets of my personality, and to embrace it has allowed me to excel rather than shame from it.
Beautiful, beautiful. What have I not asked you that you think could be useful for the audience to hear?
I think there's a big consciousness shift now in the way that we see things, the way that we question things, and especially coming from a PR space, the way that we certainly may look up to someone or may not look up to someone. I just say question everything. And when you question everything, you start to think from yourself. Because especially in the UK, you're spoon-fed everything. This is what you need to learn. This is what happened. There's a great phrase, his history. We learn about history, but it's his story because men were the only people who could write. So being able to have that conscious awareness and deliberate and to think and to surround yourself by other thinkers will naturally accelerate your life.
Beautiful. I guess that goes back to the community and being surrounded by the people that you're inspired by, and you can learn from, and you know that you're just aligned with, so that you can bounce off those ideas and grow together. Stunning. What's your recipe for happiness, Sabrina?
I think going back to the purpose would be my recipe for happiness. Living every day with purpose, accepting things as they are, and I guess it's community as well. Traveling, one of the negatives is you lose that sense of community, and being able to build that is so, so important. Whether I have or haven't figured out happiness, I don't know, but I'm very content and joyful, so maybe that is, but very purpose-led.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dana.
Hello friends, if you enjoyed this episode, please make sure to subscribe and share it with someone. I would love to hear your feedback and suggestions as to what guests you would like to see on the show next. See you next week.